Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about my studio-friendly license. So you may see this license linked on different products. There may be a notice about it on the product page, and I've tried to write it as a simple to understand license, but just in case there's any confusion, I'm making this video so we can just talk about things and make sure you understand it fully. So when it comes to selling digital products online, a lot of people incorporate different types of licenses, and usually it's to do with getting a fair exchange for how the content is used. So for example, some people do seat limits. So what that means is every time you purchase a product, it will be viable for like only one person to use in a company, or like 5 people, 10 people, whatever. And sometimes that's an appropriate business model, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult for companies to work around that. There's really no right or wrong way. For my products, I've decided to go for a project limit rather than a seat limit. And it also depends whether you're an independent or whether you're a company. To keep it really short and simple, if you're a solo person, regardless of whether you're using the content for a non-commercial or a commercial project, so commercial, for example, would be if you're using it for like a client project. Say you're taking some of my lighting resources, for example, and you're working on like a product development project for a client, you would be considered an independent because you're one person, solo, likely self-employed. You would only have to pay the lowest amount. And what's really nice about this is you don't have to buy it for every project. If you're an independent, you can buy it once and use it an infinite number of times. So I've tried to make things as fair as possible in that regard. So I've made content, you purchase it from me, so I get some money from you, then in return, you can use it as often as you like. It's now a part of your tool set. Again, in terms of fairness, things change a little bit when it comes to larger companies. And that's where the studio part of the studio-friendly license comes in. So if you're a company making something, again, we'll say for a client, for example, you can purchase the product and use it with an unlimited number of seats, so anyone in the company can use it for a single project. So again, let's say you're a product design firm and you have a client come in and you want to make use of, again, we'll keep the lighting tools as an example. You can purchase the lighting tools at the studio tier, and absolutely anyone within your company can make use of that for that one client project. The next time you get a client project, you have to buy it again. Now, this is quite a fair exchange because the pricing does not adjust based on how large your client project is or how much money you're making from them. And that way, it's not really a royalty because the studio does not say, hey, provide the creator with 10% of whatever you're making from the client. No, it's just the original flat price of the studio tier of what the product is. You just pay that every time you have a client project if you're a company. Again, if you're an independent, so you're self-employed, you don't have to worry about that. You buy it once, you get it forever, use it for any number of projects. It's just if you're a company or a studio, is the term we're using in this license, then generally speaking, you have a few more funds flying around. You can incorporate the price of this asset into the total price you're charging the client. There is a third option as well. So if you're a studio/company that is using the product for a large number of projects and you have the confidence that you're going to use it for more and more client projects in the future, instead of paying it every single time you have a client project, you can make a studio unlimited purchase. Generally speaking, and this may vary depending on who's using this license and what they want to set the price to, I tend to, as a general rule of thumb, keep the studio unlimited price about 3 times the amount of the studio price. So you can think about that as free client projects. So to keep it cost effective for you, you could say to yourself, hey, I'm confident that I'm going to use this product for more than 3 client projects. So I might as well buy the studio unlimited license because it'll be more cost effective in the long run. So you're going to use it for 10 projects in the end. Why would you pay the studio license 10 times when you can just buy the studio unlimited once, which would cover you for free and onwards? So hopefully that's relatively simple to understand. Now we're going to go into a bit more detail about the actual usage and distribution of the content. So obviously you're not allowed to resell the content of the product. So some people may misinterpret the commercial/non-commercial use, where it says both non-commercial and commercial is allowed in each of these licenses. When it says commercial, that does not include reselling the product. This is again relating to commercial work such as client-based work, so general exchanges of services that the product will assist you with. If you make a purchase, you're allowed to share the assets between your workspace, right? But so if you're going to have people within your work using the content, because again, this allows for any number of seats, you're allowed to share those files within the company, but you're not allowed to share it outside of the usage rights. So say you're an independent, you can't share the content with another independent or another company. If you are a company, you're not allowed to share the content with any other company or with any other individual outside of that work. They will have to buy their own license. And yes, that also applies for sub-companies within a project. So say that you have like a parent company that's hiring out or outsourcing work to multiple sub-companies. If each of those sub-companies separately employs different people, then yes, in theory, each of those sub-companies will need to purchase a license. But the lines can get a bit blurry there. The best practice, if you're unsure, is just to contact the creator and speak to them about it. Now, there is an exception to the distribution of the content content. So the main thing that comes to mind is video games. Say that the license is applied to a product that's a collection of 3D assets for video games. Earlier on, I said that you're not allowed to redistribute the content of the product. But in a video game format or something similar, you can redistribute the content so long as it's in the compiled format for that end product, and the end user or the customer cannot access the content in its original form. So in the form of a video game, this makes quite a lot of sense. Say that you're purchasing a collection of assets that's like furniture for a 3D world. You use those 3D assets in the game, they become a part of the game, and the game is compiled and distributed to end users. The end user cannot legally, and not without a lot of effort, uncompile the product and re-access that content in its original form. And if they do, they'll likely be violating terms of service, either yours or a different service where they got the game. And at that point, it becomes a legal problem for them, not for you. But again, if there's any confusion about that, then maybe worth speaking to a lawyer, or again, just the creator of the original product. So this license is very short. It doesn't use much legalese because I prefer doing things in a way where it's just friendly communication between creator and user, and not in a very legally frightening and litigious way. I don't like doing that. I come from a community where it's very like open source centric usually. Instead of NDAs, we have friend DAs, and I have financial agreements with people that are just word of mouth, just because we're friends and we productively make money together. Now, doing stuff in a non-legalese way is maybe sometimes a bit of a lower confidence option for large companies, but it doesn't have to be. I make a note at the end of the license here that says, there are no large bodies of legal text associated with this license. The product may or not come with a copy of this text, depending on if the creator wants to include it. The invoice of your purchase is your proof of receipt. That's all you need to show the creator to be sure that you've purchased the license. No agreement, no signed contract needs to be made, separately from the invoice itself. And that proof of receipt can be compared against a record of purchases, so the creator can look back on any service that they're selling the product and confirm that, oh yes, you did purchase this license. If you represent a company anxious about usage rights, just make sure you have a copy of the invoice and save the link to this page for additional reassurance. And there are also some additional common terms outlined, so these are just like general philosophical points about it. No matter which purchase is made, the following terms must be followed. If anyone asks where you get the asset content from, credit must be provided. You cannot lie about where the content came from or brush it off as internally created. Seems simple enough. Again, this license is largely about fairness, so it's about not kicking the original creator out of the equation. If the content is used in a commercial entertainment product like a video game or movie, credit must be provided, if only in a small capacity, such as in the final credits. This is not a new concept. Licensed products and services are often put into the credits at the end of games and films, so that should be easy to integrate into your workflow. As we stated, the asset content must not be redistributed outside of purchased rights. An independent user can make backups of the asset content on their own systems as long as this cannot be accessed by anyone else, and a studio can make backups of the asset content on their own systems as long as no one outside of the company can access it. No royalties or commission payments are required, so I understand that the concept of having to pay for the product every time there's a project may sound like a royalty or commission, but again, specifically, this is not stating that you have to pay a percentage of the income on a client project, or that the pricing of the product is going to change based on any of that external information. In that regard, it's not any of those things. And if you're getting paid repeatedly by a client for the thing you make for them, so say if you're getting royalties or commissions from that client project in some way, you don't have to pay any of that extra back to the creator of this product. It's just a one-off purchase for those projects. Think of it as a resource/tool purchase. So if you're a painter, you have to buy some paint to do client projects. Think about it as you're paying for this bucket of paint when you're doing those client projects. You don't have to pay the paint producer a percentage of the client work, and if the client and you have any specific agreement that you're getting extra payments for them, or you have a specific pricing plan for your work, that's nothing to do with the product creator. You've just paid them for the bucket of paint so you can do the project. And finally, more of a philosophical point, the product creator and the buyer should try to encourage a culture of positivity and respect when communicating any concerns. Nobody enjoys unnecessary anxiety. So this point is just about the litigious nature of things when it comes to licensing. Yes, this sounds a bit vague, but what it's essentially saying is, if there are any questions, gray areas, legal concerns, your first point of action should not be a lawyer or a solicitor. It should be to contact the product creator and discuss the situation. And yes, you are effectively agreeing to that when you purchase this product. It is open to interpretation by design. So hopefully that helps to answer some of your concerns about the studio-friendly license. Again, there may be different versions of it in the future, but on my webpage for the license, I've indicated when it was last edited. And ideally, different versions should be put on separate pages as well, so we have like a backlog. If you're another creator that wants to use this license, you can also make a copy for yourself and adapt it for your own specific needs and requirements. So yeah, thank you for listening and have a great day.